The art of intimidation can be a useful tactic in the NFL, as players with a reputation of being feared can easily get in the heads of their opponents and throw them off their game. When you really think about it, the game of football is all about intimidation. Quarterbacks try to intimidate opposing defenses with arm strength and precision, while middle linebackers go the more conventional route of intimidation by delivering crushing blows to running backs and wide receivers. Defensive players initially come to mind when we think of intimidation, but lightning-quick runners, stonewall offensive linemen, and deep threat wideouts have just as easily struck fear into opponents throughout the years. In today's video, we're going to be counting down the top 10 most feared and intimidating players in NFL history. Let's get started. Number 10, Jim Brown. This one is specifically for all of the old heads in my comment section that say I don't have any greats of old in these top 10 or countdown videos. Well, here's one for you. Jim Brown absolutely dominated the 1960s. He had the perfect mix of size, speed, and brute strength that made him an unstoppable force during his time with the Cleveland Browns. The three-time MVP set countless records during his short stint, and he was rarely taken down by one defender. What really made Jim Brown so feared is the fact that he was just so much more skilled in every facet of the game than all of his opponents. Another oldie but goodie. Number 9, Ray Nitschke. After winning only one game as a rookie with the Green Bay Packers in 1958, Ray Nitschke led his team to 5 championships, including the first 2 Super Bowls ever played. He made his name as a ferocious linebacker who often delivered crushing hits, but he also intercepted 25 passes during his illustrious career. Ray Nitschke was probably one of the first NFL players where you look at and say, God, that guy is mean. I do not want to have to run in the hole that he's filling, or I do not want to have to go over the middle when he's in coverage. I mean, just look at this guy's face. He was prototypical old school linebacker mean, and he backed it up with his style of play. Number 8, Barry Sanders. When I first thought about this video and thought about this list, I'm thinking, it's all going to be defensive players. But as I stated in the intro, if you're a linebacker, defensive lineman, or anyone on the defense for that matter, and you have to face Barry Sanders, you're going to be really intimidated and very scared. There was never a more elusive and extremely strong runner than Barry. He was a true home run threat every time the ball touched his hands, but he had the leg strength to carry defenders down the field. During the 90s, Sanders was the most intimidating runner in the NFL, although by just looking at him, you would never know it. Sanders made up for his relatively small stature by being probably the most elusive running back in NFL history. If you ask a lot of people, they will say Barry Sanders is the GOAT running back, and for good reason. Literally, every time he touched the ball, it could be a house call, it could be a touchdown. And again, he's a small guy, but he's so fast and his legs were so strong that one defender wasn't going to bring him down. And he routinely made opponents look silly with his lightning quick feet and his cuts that left defenders with their heads turned around like they didn't know where they were. Number 7, Dick Butkus. When I think of the word intimidation and how it relates to football, I instantly think of Dick Butkus. This linebacking legend finished his career with over 1,000 tackles, and most of them were of the bone-shattering variety. Butkus was one of the most feared players in NFL history. I mean, just look at this man. The mustache, the brute face, even his uniform and the way his shoulder pads fit, his helmet, the lack of face mask that he has. I mean, he just seems like a mean you-know-what. And you would not want to go over the middle when Butkus is in coverage, and you would not want to run it in the A-gap or B-gap when Butkus is filling the hole. Number 6, Ed Reed. Ed Reed makes the list due to the fact that he intimidates with his remarkable ball hawking skills and his bone-crushing hits. He is a 5-time All-Pro selection and has led the NFL in interceptions on 3 separate occasions. The former Miami Hurricane isn't purely a center fielder, but he does have 54 career interceptions. He is the definition of an all-around elite safety. He was so intimidating because he could do both. He could intercept you, read you, make you look stupid thinking that you had a guy open and then nope, picked off, house call, but he would also come across the middle or fill gaps on the outside and destroy wide receivers and running backs. When Bill Belichick and Tom Brady say who's the defender you least want to face and they both say Ed Reed, you know he's going to be on this list. Number 5, Randy Moss. This list, at first glance, you'd probably think it's going to be all defensive players. But if you ask me, there has never been a more frightening deep threat in NFL history than Randy Moss. Moss burst onto the scene in 1998 with 17 touchdowns in his rookie year and scored an NFL record 23 touchdowns in 2007 as a member of the New England Patriots. During his prime, was there any coverage that could stop the gazelle-like Moss down the sideline? The answer is no. And yes, you're probably thinking in the modern day there's guys like like Tyreek Hill that are just as fast, but Randy was freaking huge. You couldn't assign any defender in NFL history to cover him one-on-one because he had both the size and speed. If you have a fast guy like Deion Sanders, he's just going to outjump him. If you have a bigger guy like Night Train Lane, he's just going to outrun him. So for that reason, Randy Moss is certainly the most intimidating wide receiver in NFL history. And he's so freaking cool. His attitude was like, I don't give a shit. I'm better than you. I'm going to ball on you. Watch this. Number 4, Bruce Smith. The all-time leader in sacks, Bruce Smith haunted the dreams of opposing quarterbacks during the 1990s with the Buffalo Bills. He possessed the extremely rare combination of defensive tackle size and strength and outside linebacker speed. Smith also probably had better footwork than any other defensive lineman in NFL history. When you couple that with the fact that he was super mean and gave it his all on every play, plus he had no mercy, Bruce Smith definitely earns a spot on this list. Number 3, and probably a lot of your guys' favorite defensive player in NFL history, Ray Lewis. Lewis played for 15 years and he seemingly got better with age. He's one of the most emotional leaders of all time, which in my opinion makes him that much more intimidating. Lewis's teammates feed off of his passion and his opponents are certainly intimidated by everything he did on the field. He is one of the bigger linebackers of his generation, knows exactly where to be on every play, and delivers the huge blows on seemingly every tackle. Ask any running back past the, year 2000, who's the player that you would least want to go heads up with in the hole, or least would want to go heads up with, out in the flat with a pass or a quick slant over the middle? 9 times out of 10, they're going to say Ray Lewis. I mean, this dude is just the embodiment of an intimidating defensive player. Whether in his older days, it's his look, he had the bionic arm brace, the freaking face mask that had like 1,000 little slits in it, and the visor, or in his early days when he just had that cool retro Ravens jersey and the bandana with his helmet off on the sidelines, just looking into the freaking souls of opponents and just taking their souls by not even being on the field, just with his look. And then he would go on the field and back it up with bone-chilling hits or just making crazy plays on the ball, whether it's fumbles or interceptions. Ray Lewis definitely deserves a spot on this list. Number 2, Reggie White. Another monster defensive end, Reggie White was the most intimidating player in the NFL right before Bruce Smith. He often tossed offensive linemen aside with one hand, including Pro Bowler Larry Allen, but he had the speed to turn the corner to get to the quarterback. When White was at the apex of his career, no one was more feared. Again, this is another guy where if you ask NFL players or NFL fans who the greatest defensive lineman is, a lot of them will say Reggie White, and for good reason. Before we get to number 1, a few honorable mentions, and this is mainly just going to be all the cool safeties that didn't make this list. Again, you could argue a few of them would be over Ed Reed, but I think Ed Reed's ball hawking plus his ability with the big hits has a slight favorite over these guys. But without further ado, the honorable mentions are Ronnie Lott, Brian Dawkins, Steve Atwater, and Troy Polamalu. They all played pretty similarly. Polamalu probably had better ball hawking skills than the rest of them and maybe even big playmaking skills, but as far as big hits, you really can't argue with Lott, Dawkins, Atwater, and Polamalu. They definitely deserve a spot on this list, but I only kept it to 10 people, so they get a spot in the honorable mention section. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, the most intimidating and scary player in NFL history. You should probably guess it, but if you don't, go ahead, pause the video, go down in the comments and take a guess. All right, 3, 2, 1. Number 1 is Lawrence Taylor. The original LT, Lawrence Taylor exploded onto the scene as a rookie with the New York Giants in 1981, and he never looked back. He literally revolutionized the outside linebacking position with his out-of-this-world 20.5 sacks in 1986. There was never a more downhill, aggressive linebacker in NFL history that brought the pain on every play. I could literally do a whole 10 to 15 minute standalone video on why Lawrence Taylor is the most intimidating player in NFL history, and perhaps I will. But for now, I'll just keep it short and sweet. He was a 9-time consecutive All-Pro and is literally the most intimidating player of all time. He literally said he wants to go out there on the field like a bunch of crazed dogs and wreak havoc on his opponent. Like, this man is absolutely insane, but for the coolest and most awesome reasons that make him literally the scariest player in NFL history. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me as far as this video is concerned, but as always with these top 10s, I'm sure I forgot some people. Feel free to berate me in the comments. Let me know who I forgot. Also, a like and subscribe would mean the world to me. It's free. It really helps the channel out. It helps me get these type of videos to other NFL fans just like you. All right, y'all. Later.